He is the Brit because he is British. They are on the correct way, but like, why are they giving upside down? Why are you like this? Do you guys want a little bit more bonus content? Okay, please say yes, because I'm gonna show you anyways. It's time to start another reading vlog. And this time around, we are going to be clearing off some books from my TBR that have been on there for literally years at this point. I recently did a TBR clean out where I truly cleaned up every TBR that I have in existence on my Storygraph, on my Goodreads, an Excel spreadsheet that I keep on my computer. Literally everything got a full spring cleaning, and I eliminated hundreds of books off my TBR. But there were a few that even though they've been on there for years, I still didn't want to remove. And I was like, you know what? Let's find out if it was worth it to keep these books on my TBR all these years and actually get these bad boys read. So that's what we're going to be doing in this vlog for the next week. I'm excited to be doing a vlog because I feel like I haven't really done that many vlogs this year yet, just because of the holidays and end of the year content. And then I had to take a break and I'm just feeling all out of sorts. So hopefully this vlog goes smoothly. I can only hope. I've had a lot of technical difficulties lately with videos, which is actually part of what contributed to me taking a break, because the TBR clean out that I mentioned that I did. Yeah. I tried to film it and then it looked like it was filmed by a gas station security camera. So I had to scrap that. And then I didn't have a video for that week. And then I was like, well, you know what? Taking a break actually felt kind of good. I was like, maybe we just keep the good times rolling and we'll pick up in the next month. So that's what I ended up. But anyways, back on track. Let's talk about the books that I want to read for this vlog. The first one this one's been here. What? This one's been on my TBR truly the longest. I think let's look this up. So I added this book to my TBR back in 2023. So she's been on there for a hot minute, and it's The Brit by Jodi Malpas. This one is a dark mafia romance. It's got kind of a captor-captive element to it. And I was also a big fan of the mafia subgenre back in the day. So that's probably why it's survived all this time. And it's also a pretty popular one. This is the one that I'm least nervous about. The other two, I'm a little bit more fearful. I'm not gonna lie. The next one that has survived several different cleanouts. How long has Miss Thing been on my Goodreads? We got another one from 2023. This is Unbreak My Heart, and it's by Nicole, Jacquelyn. This one is a military romance. So the hero is the heroine's best friend's husband. So it's kind of got a love triangle, but then the friend ends up dying. And so then she steps in to take care of the kids. We'll see how this one goes. The military portion in particular makes me a little bit skittish, I'm not gonna lie. So we'll see how that goes. I typically avoid those, but I swear one of y'all recommended this to me way back in the day. And then the final one, just for some variety, I added was His by Aubrey Dark. This is also, I guess, kind of captive. So is there a high level overlap? Maybe. But this one is more of like a dark erotica. This one I'm the most nervous for because it has not very good ratings, but it's recommended for people who really liked comfort food. And I really loved comfort food, but I'm a little bit nervous that it is just straight up bad. So we're going to find out. So the first book that I'm going to read is The Brit. I already have the book downloaded on my Kindle. I'm ready to rock and roll. I hate that I just said that. I just sounded so much like my boss. Ew. All right, I'm going to get to reading. I'll see you in a bit. Hey divas and baddies. It's me, I'm back. And I'm here to talk to you about The Brit by Jodi Yeah, that's her middle name, Malpas. I was just about to get onto my workout and I was going to mix up my pre-workout drink and my creatine and all that. And I was like, what if I updated the divas first? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the book and then we'll get into my initial thoughts and feelings. We've got Tiny Mike hanging out with us today because I'm trying to test out if this is better in these echoey rooms than Big Mike. Now it sounds like I'm actually just fully talking about people, but I'm going to be holding Tiny Mike so I won't be mixing anything up on cameras. And honestly, I don't know how these other book baddies do it, because how can you do more than one thing at once? Like, clearly I can't. I've never been capable. Let's get into what you're actually here to talk about, or hear about, I guess rather, which is The Brit. So, like I said, 36% in, lay of the land. We have Danny Black. He is the Brit because he is British. Great. We're all on board with that. So when we first meet him, he's tiny boy. And through a series of events, because he's basically a feral child that is being abused by his stepdad. Anyways, through a series of events, he ends up becoming the adopted son of the head of one of the, wait, what? Okay, we got off track there. We're gonna try that again. He becomes the adopted son of a leader from a mafia group. I think that's as good as we're gonna get. So Fast forward many years later, adopted daddy is dying. So now son has to take over and he's got a major problem. They obviously have some people in their pockets, and one of the people that they have in their pocket is a political figure. He is running a campaign. They've given money for this campaign with the understanding that they are going to get control of a specific docker pier so that they can import their goods. However, said political figure is not exactly upholding their end of the bargain. So then he's like, I need to make sure that this happens because otherwise their entire operation falls apart, right? Great, we're all on the same page. So this is how Rose comes into his possession because she is the mistress of this mayor. So Rose also has a pretty tough backstory. When we first meet her, prior to all this, she's giving birth. Someone takes the baby. It's kind of implied that it's another person in a mafia group. So it turns out she is actually the mistress, not because she like wants to be for this mayor, but because she's been like loaned out for her services to kind of spy on this guy. And she's done it in other situations. And in exchange for being a good girl and getting this information for this guy, she gets updates on her kid and knows that they're safe and all of that. So she's really stuck in this life. So she goes from having to be the mistress of the mayor to then being kidnapped by his rival. And now she's kind of like, well, you know, I still want to get updates on my son. So I kind of feel like I got to spy on this guy now too. So that's what's going on to this point. So thoughts and feelings. I'm not loving it. I'm not hating it either. I feel like I say that a lot when I'm hoping that a book will turn around, but I'm not really enjoying it at the moment. It's just so generic. There's nothing that I can really grab onto with any of this. There's not really a plot that I'm really excited about. The characters are kind of like, they're fine. And I care about them because they're people, but not them as individuals. And the relationship development is entirely built on physical attraction. And it's just them being like, I'm so horny for you, but I shouldn't be because you're my captor or you're my captive and it should be all business. And I'm like, you make the rules. I'm pretty sure you can do whatever you want, Danny boy. The setup is pretty much just kind of like Beauty and the Beast. Turns out he's not that monstrous though. Oh my God. Because guess what, guys? He doesn't women, so bars in hell, I know. The heroine, like I care about her getting back with her kid because she's a mom that had her kid taken away, but I don't really care about them specifically. I just don't know these characters very much yet. And I'm like, we're 36% in. I feel like I should have something that I'm interested in about them, but they both seem to be just kind of like a series of trauma. The chemistry, like I said, pretty much just entirely them being physically attracted to one another, saying that they shouldn't sleep together. It's literally every scene. There's a lot of tension of them being naked in situations and being like, wow, that's hot. I shouldn't do it. I'm better than this. And walking away. And I just don't think that that's enough to really have good tension, to really make them sizzle, to make them like leap off the page as a couple where that I'm like, yes, I want them to get together. And with the plot, I'm like, I don't really give a shit about this pier. Like, I mean, I hope they get control of it, but like also I'm not that invested. Okay, so now she's captive. She's at his place. Where do things go from here? It's mostly him just lavishing a bit of attention on her and like not buying her skanky clothes. Like all her other, I was gonna say Johns. I mean, I guess that's kind of what's going on. But all her other suitors have like dressed her in skanky things and he gave her something classy. What a guy. Yay. And like most of what they're doing just seems to be like going to dinner and then occasionally we get little snippets of like what's going on with the mafia maneuverings and them figuring some things out. I don't know, there's just not a lot that I'm very excited about with this book. I know I'm being really snarky, but like there's nothing super compelling about this book, but there's also nothing really egregiously wrong with it either. And so I'm like, I needed to take a turn. I needed to either be like so obviously bad, corny, campy, like something that I don't like so I can just like put it down, or get good. Because right now we are firmly in 3-star territory and I need something more than this. This was supposed to be the easy winner. Oh, also side note, as I'm like about ready to go lift and stuff, it is always entertaining to me when authors write about lifting because it's really obvious which ones don't know shit about lifting. And I'm going to very kindly say that I don't think Jodi Ellen Malpas lifts weights. Should I tell you what happened? Because it gave me a giggle. I think other weightlifters will also find this funny. Okay, maybe not. You tell me. The hero comes into like a hotel gym and there's a guy that isn't leaving the gym. He's like, my entourage is so intimidating. I don't get why this guy isn't leaving. And the guy just throws another 50 kilograms onto the bar, which is actually a fair amount of weight, which means that that guy probably wasn't up to his working set yet. And the hero was like, he's doing it to try and show off to me. No, he's not. That wasn't his working weight. There's no way that was his working weight. Okay, I'm done being snarky about the weightlifting. It gave me a giggle. I'm going to continue reading this book. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to update you though, to be totally, totally honest, because my in-laws are going to be in town for the weekend. And so at this point, we might have to say adieu for a couple days and then I'll reconvene when they leave. I will see you guys in a few days or when I'll probably be done with the Brit. Anyways. Okay, hi. So it's been a couple days. My in-laws are actually still here. They're off doing something else. So I was like, I need to quickly film this clip to tell you that I finished the Brit because I finished it right as their plane was landing. At this point, because it's not a very memorable book to me, I'm a little bit worried I'm going to forget my final thoughts. I will say it definitely got more action-packed as we went. There's a lot of explosions and big kind of cinematic things. And then there's a lot of intrigue of like, who did it? Who's the mole? So that was at least interesting and entertaining. But honestly, the plot is primarily just the hero like lavishing nice things upon the heroine and the heroine being like, no one's ever done this for me. And then there's just like a lot of repetition. It's like, we're attracted to one another, we shouldn't be, and then they do it, and then they're like, no, this shame, I shouldn't have done that, what am I doing? Especially for the heroine, because she's like, I'm betraying him. And then she's like, I should tell him what's going on, and then like something will happen, she'd be like, no, I need to push him away, and then he gets mad, and then the cycle starts all over again because even though they're mad, they're attracted to one another. You know, if you're looking for decently done mafia romance, it's just kind of like middle of the road, I think this will fit the bill. If you're looking for an audiobook where the narrator has a lovely British accent, might I suggest this one? Because that's the only way I made it through this book, because reading with my eyeballs, I was so bored. I've just read so many other books in the mafia subgenre or that kind of have this captive or that I've found more interesting, more intense. So to me, this is like a 3-star, but truly, if I hadn't been reading this for a vlog, I would not have finished it because I've had very limited time to read. A run-of-the-mill book just isn't enough. Those are my final thoughts. I am going to move on to Unbreak My Heart, because that one scares me the least out of the remaining two. We're not off to a great start, you guys, honestly. I thought this one, the Brit, was gonna be the easy win. It would be like a chill, like 4-star, and then we were gonna get into like, I don't know what I'm gonna get. It could be a 5-star, it could be a 1-star, like who knows? So now we're getting into those books. I'm really nervous because, as I said, this one is military fiction, and I typically actively avoid military fiction. I have no interest in reading it, but I've heard incredible things about this book, and everyone talks about how emotional it is. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of, there's like an Ali Martinez. Is that right? I think an Ali Martinez book, something Embers, the one with the house fire, where they end up with their best friend's partner. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? It kind of reminds me a little bit of that with the setup. So I'm like hoping that it'll be like emotional and juicy and fun enough in that way that I'll be distracted and not focused on the military aspect. So I will chat with you in a couple days when I have a little bit more to say about what the book's actually about. So see you soon. All right, hi. So my in-laws have now left. It's the following day. We are going to ignore the laundry that is sitting on my very unmade bed because my house is an absolute disaster right now. I'm just doing like a ton of cleaning and trying to like reassemble my house a little bit. So this is the least messy messy room that I have at the moment. So we're just gonna ignore that. But I wanted to pop in because I've made it about a third of a way into Unbreak My Heart by Nicole Jacquelyn. So I wanted to tell you what it's about, and then we'll get into my initial thoughts and feelings. So what is this bad boy about though? So we have our heroine Katie, and she is kind of cousins with Shane, not in like the Alabama family wreath sort of way, but like her aunt and uncle had a bunch of like foster kids flowing in and out of their home, and Shane was one of them. So they kind of have a history. They were treated a little bit like cousins, but it's not like they grew up together. So everything's kosher here. But as they grew up, it became clear to Shane that Katie had a bit of a crush on him, and he didn't really want to encourage it, didn't really treat her the best to make sure he wasn't sending any mixed signals or encouraging that crush. But things got really complicated because he ended up dating and then marrying her roommate from college. So she's still very much around, very much a presence in his life. He now has 4 kids with his wife, Rachel. Because he is in the military and often goes for long stretches on deployments, Katie steps in almost as like a third parent, even though he still is like trying to hold her at a distance. Now, tragically, Rachel, when she is pregnant, I think actually with the fourth kid. Is it the fifth kid? I can't keep track. There's so many of them. She ends up getting in a car wreck. She passes away. They save the baby. Obviously, Shane needs a lot of help. It's a lot of kids. So Kate ends up kind of stepping in as their other parent, although he really tries to treat her more like the nanny because he's always kind of feeling like they're flirting with being a little bit too domestic. Things end up getting more complicated because Shane starts catching some feelings, and there are some complications involved with that, and I don't want to say anything more, but I do feel you should know that there is a controversial trope in this that some people might not like, but I am loving. So I'm not gonna lie, the first couple of scenes where it's like Shane is kind of realizing, even before Rachel has passed, Katie's really developed into a very lovely young woman, and maybe he overlooked her in a lot of ways, but he's like, no, we're gonna shut that down. I'm married already. Just felt like such an asshole. And Sam from Sam Ruth Little even messaged me after I posted my TBR and was like, look, you are gonna hate Shane. I need you to hang in there. And yeah, that's definitely true. When we initially get his perspective, he just feels like such an ungrateful asshole. He's so cruel to her. That's slowly lessening as you kind of learn more about him. You understand why he's kind of lashing out, but also he's starting to kind of treat Katie better because he's paying a little bit more attention to all the ways that she is helping, and but even more than that, all the things that he really likes about her, because that wasn't something prior to his wife's passing that he even let himself see. Also really worried because I wasn't really even liking Katie at the beginning because she was kind of giving that, oh, I'm just so bookish and plain and nobody ever looks at me. And then she like takes off her glasses and suddenly, oh my God, she's a smoke show. It was like a very 2000s feeling kind of heroine. And I was like, no, we're in danger. We're in danger. I'm not loving that type of setup. Someone that's going to end up being like a complete doormat to this dude because she's just like, pick me, pick me, pick me. But thankfully that is all lessening. The further we get in, the more you understand Katie as a character and why she's continuously showing up and how much she loves these kids. And I love the interactions with the kids. I think they are just the sweetest, and it doesn't like overly romanticize parenthood, even though she really enjoys being a parent to these kids. It shows like the dirty, the messy, you got one kid clinging onto you and like snuggling into your shoulder and you just need to put him down for a nap, and another one that's screaming over in this room and they didn't get a lot of sleep, so they're having tantrums, and just like the complications and busyness of every day in a household with a bunch of young kids. But it's like very sweet and endearing in a lot of ways because Katie really does care about all these kids. And I think Shane, you're starting to get more of why he responds, how he responds, even though you don't get a ton in his perspective, which I do like. The little bits do give you insight into like, okay, he's got some trauma. There's some past history that's kind of informing this pattern. You understand why they are so messy, so toxic, even though they're both like honestly trying their best. They feel like they're trying to do the right thing. Also, I got a good giggle. They do use Skype in this, and so they were Skyping with Daddy while he was on deployment, and I just dated the book a little bit because I don't think Skype's around anymore. I have a ton of cleaning to do around the house today. I've got the house to myself, so I think I'm just going to listen to the audiobook. I found out my library has it. That was very unexpected. And I will pop in if anything fun or fancy happens that I want to inform you about. Otherwise, I will chat with you very, very soon. Oh my God, you guys, there was just a reference to Wii. Do you guys remember Wii? The video game system? Oh my God, I was so good at tennis. I should explain. The kids are playing Wii in the book, and it's making me giggle because I'm like Skyping and Wii, and it feels very like 2010s right now, and I'm kind of loving it. There's also been a couple of other references that I was like, kind of feel like I should be picking up more on what exactly you're talking about, but I'm not. But yeah, this book just has like little baby things that I'm like, woof, we're showing our age a little bit. I am going to finish. I'm like so close to being done with this bad boy, and I'll give you like a proper update in like a hot second. I just haven't really wanted to put it down because I don't know. It's just reading fast. Actually, I think it's really not that long. So anyways, I'll give you a proper update in just a second. Hello? Is this thing on? All right, there we go. I shifted over just ever so slightly so you have something slightly different to look at in my house. Slowly coming together house. You know what? Don't look at what's going on back here. But I did finish Unbreak My Heart. I was gonna update you in the middle, but honestly, this book was so short and I just like flew through it and I didn't really want to stop and give updates. But I ended up really enjoying this because I feel like this couple was kind of like, do I want to call them toxic? They were definitely messy in a way that I felt like was really realistic. Like you understand understood the motivations and you understood why the characters were making the choices they were making, even though you like wanted to throttle them sometimes. You're like, why are you like this? But you also knew why they were like that. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so much past trauma, past behaviors, past patterns of how they've treated one another, making snap judgments, being hot-headed. Like there was just so many things that kind of factored into how they would respond to one another. And then just also like the stress of having that many kids and their very fresh relationship where they've already kind of had fraught interactions building upon that. So it was like they'd reach kind of like this fragile agreement, this kind of like fragile understanding, and it would be so easy to break it because it was like the smallest little thing. You just barely showed that you trust me in this scenario, and so of course it feels like you're not trusting me again in this scenario, and so that understanding that we had just gone. And also Shane, although I think in general he really believes he is trying to do what's best for the kids, he also knows how to do it while hurting her and making it seem like she's the problem. And so you're just like, oh, I wanted to get him. But he gets his comeuppance because she not only learns to really stand up for herself and not be a doormat and realize her worth, but also her family comes in hot. And it was so satisfying for them to just be like, hey, grow up. Stop being an asshole. This girl's done everything for you. And your inability to acknowledge this is wild. That said, this was genuinely an exhausting read because like not only do you kind of have the back and forth where you just like are never quite sure about the footing, but also just like the stress of everyday life with the deployment, with the kids, with big life changes. Like there were so many different things. And Kate even like throughout this book was like exhausted. Like she literally has to go on bed rest at one point because they were just like, you need to take a break. You're doing too much. I like, did I say this already? I don't remember if I said this in the last clip. I used to nanny and this was literally giving me flashbacks to those days. Like it was a lot. It does not shy away from like the less glamorous parts of parenting, even though these two like adore these children. The one thing that I think like kind of prevented this from being like a full, yes, I loved everything about this was I don't know, the ending just was kind of like a slow slide into the ending, which is, I feel like I've encountered this like a couple times now with books that I've enjoyed the majority of the book, but then like the ending's just kind of this like, like it just doesn't quite give you that full like sigh of relief. Oh, my characters are good. We made it. We made it. Like it was a fine ending. There's nothing like terribly wrong with it, but it just didn't really give me that like emotional release that I think I really would have liked. But those are my final thoughts about Unbreak My Heart. So the next book that we're going to be moving on to is His by Aubrey Dark. I don't know a ton about this. I think this one's going to be like kind of like dark. I hope it's dark anyways. That's the vibe it's getting. Anyways, do I dare get your opinion on this? I see them sitting right there. I did get myself new glasses because I wanted something a little bit more on trend, and the correct answer is I look like Drew Barrymore, but like, why do they kind of low-key look like they're on upside down? Like, does anyone else get that? They are on the correct way, but like, why are they giving upside down? What's with that? I don't know. They also, I feel like they kind of make my forehead look like 5 times the size that it is. Why does it feel like all my face is like way down here? I don't know. But then also I kind of like, I do feel like Drew Barrymore. I think I just need to get used to these glasses. I think they're just so much smaller than everything else that I have that these feel a little bit strange and out of place on my face. Hopefully I come around to them. I hope, because I just spent a bunch of money on them. Anyways, I need to get those off because I have my contacts in, and that was really hard on my eyes. Anyway, I'm going to get reading his, and I will update you very, very soon. See you in a bit. Hello, fancy meeting you around these parts. I just got done working out and I thought I'd give you a quick update about His by Aubrey. You know what? I don't know if it's Aubrey or Audrey. I'm gonna have to look that up. Cover's up here somewhere. I got about 30% in, and I thought before I become a total couch gremlin this evening, I would update you on what this whole book is about and my initial thoughts. We have our heroine. She's a librarian. She's had a bit of a dry spell with dating. Her friend then, in order to jazz things up, dares her to kiss the next hot guy that she sees. She does that, and then she's like, hey, what if we continued the party and went on a date? And he's like, I don't date. No, thank you. She doesn't really want to admit that to her friends, so she's like, I don't know. And it just didn't really work out. And her friend was like, oh, it's crazy. I actually found a slip of paper with like numbers and stuff that he dropped. You should use that as an excuse to be able to talk to him next time that he's in the library. And she's like, great plan. But then she has a really hard time catching up to this guy. And she's like, I'm just gonna follow him in my car to his house, like a normal person. She does that. She ends up going to his house, finds that he's got somebody tied up and real bloody. And it's a missing library patron that's been splashed all over the news. And he's about to be unalived by this guy who turns out is a Dexter knockoff. So then she's like, oh no, I better get out of here. But then he sees her and then he's like, you're gonna have to be chained up in the basement. And so then she is. The setup is, I'm gonna be so for real, not that interesting. It's giving beige. I feel like I've just seen too many other books do something like this, but like really leaned into the psychological or really gone somewhere wild where it was like, oh, this plays into some sort of grander plan. It just something else. Like literally this guy at this point is just trying to learn about her background. He's already having like some softer feelings towards her and she's already having horny feelings for him because I think this is going to turn into a BDSM plotline. This is from 2015, so I'm trying to give it like the benefit of the doubt. I think it might just be a little bit of product of its time. This was probably very salacious. This was probably making all the Dexter girlies go wild. I've just seen so many better versions of this. Like I'm thinking of a Lily White book that does this, but plays with the psychological aspects where like she's kind of keeping herself prisoner. And I'm just like, that's just so much more juicy, so much more wild. I really don't want to like wax poetic about this book too much just because I'm like, how interesting is it really for me to sit here and say like, I don't know, it's really not that good. So I am going to leave you here. I will let you know if anything fun or funky happens in this book, but otherwise I might just meet you up at the end of this book because this is kind of feeling like it's going to be a stinker. So I'm going to get to reading and I will chat with you very soon. Hello, besticles. It is the next morning and I thought I would give you an update while I sipped my coffee on His by Aubrey Dark because I'm now 60% into this bad boy. So I know in the last clip I was kind of harping on about how there was like not a lot of exploration of like the human psyche or Stockholm syndrome or, manipulation or anything like that, right? Any of the fun stuff that I really like in dark romances and especially in Captor Captive. Well, those things started to get introduced, but it feels really like clumsy, I think is the only way to explain it. It feels like the author understands that these principles are at play, but doesn't really understand enough about psychology to really build to those things. So we got like a jump cut basically, and we're just like a week in the future. And now she's just like, now I've got Stockholm syndrome. And she's almost like quite literally just telling us because she was like, oh, this is what's happening in my brain. She's too aware of what's going on. And she's doing everything but actually like naming what's happening to her. So it's like, it's not really that well done. Also, there's not a lot of build in between the emotions that she's experiencing. So she's kind of vacillating between very fearful, turned on by him, feeling bad for him and wanting to take care of him. Within a scene, it just flips really quickly. The author is like too excited to get to sexy parts or to get to the more like softer emotional parts. And so it's really bizarre feeling. It just doesn't feel like the character is very consistent, or it kind of feels like she's a little bit dumb. And you know what? That was only confirmed when the Meow Meow started piloting the ship. I was like, girl, you are held captive. I don't care if you're getting a little bit turned on. I kind of feel like your survival is more important. In fact, there was a scene where she was showering and he doesn't trust her by herself. So he follows her in there. He's like watching her undress and get in the shower. And she is concerned that he is going to see her unshaven meow girl. You are held captive. I can't help but feel we have bigger fish to fry. There's stuff like that where I'm just like, oh my God. Why are you like this? And also there's been some kind of spicier scenes that have started to be introduced. As I said, there's kind of this like, she's into BDSM. And so therefore she's into what's being inflicted upon her when she's an unwilling participant. Anyway, so the spice is like really not doing it for me. I don't know. It's funny because this book is the shortest one that I've read for this entire video. It feels like it's the longest, I think, because it's just like so not enjoyable. But I'm determined not to DNF it, only because I just DNF'd another book that I'm not reading for this, but I am going to tell you about it. You know what? I am going to tell you about it because I was so irritated by it. So we're switching topics. That's His by Aubrey Dark. Very painful. I don't really really want to pick it up. So I was having a hard time. I don't know. Do you guys ever get this where you're like, you know, kind of like what you want to read. You do a bunch of research on the type of book you want to read, but you want to be in the middle of the book and you don't really want to take the time to start it. So you like put off starting the book. Does anyone else do this? I'm like, I want to be in it. I want to be in the book and enjoying it already, but I don't want to get through the setup. It's so stupid. Anyways, so I was dealing with that. Finally start this book and I was like, yes, this is hitting. It's a historical romance. It was called The Heiress at Sea by Christy Caldwell. I was like, yes, it's like kind of swashbuckle. We're at sea. She sneaks onto his ship. She's pretending to be a boy. This heroine was so irritating. It was like Amelia Bedelia was plucked up and placed into this adult romance novel. Like someone asked her to paint the walls. And so she paints a mural instead of just like painting it on like a normal ass color. She won't stop talking. And I was honestly cheering for the other seafaring folk to throw her overboard in hopes that the book would take a different direction. So I had to DNF that one, couldn't stand it. So I'm like determined not to DNF his by Aubrey Dark. Cause I'm like, I feel like if I DNF too many books in a row, I start getting discouraged and feeling a little bit slumpy. So we're not gonna do that. We're gonna finish it. We're gonna power through, even if it's painful for us. You know what's wild? I actually don't have that much left for this book, but am I gonna be able to update you today? We'll see. We'll see. I'm not really sure. I have a lot to do. I'm preparing for a trip. I'm gonna be going on vacation soon. And I have like a lot of stuff that I need to do at work. And then also just like a lot of stuff that I need to do around the house and like returns and stuff like that. I'm like, I feel like I was just talking about how I had a bunch of stuff to do to prepare for my in-laws and for my in-laws to be here. And now we're switching gears. Anyway, I am going to get to work because I do need to do that. I have a lot to get done before vacation. Boo. And I'm stalling. Okay. I will see you soon. Hello, 'tis I. I'm back. It's the following day. Although I did finish his by Aubrey Dark yesterday, I finished it right before an appointment. And then I was like, gotta run out the door. And I was like, this will be great though, because I have all my makeup on. And then I'll just like come back and film that clip. And then the vlog will be done and all wrapped up. And look at me getting things done on time. And then it poured cats and dogs. Like it was torrential rain. Like not the Seattle drizzle, downpour. Then today, it starts getting sunny. I was like, great, I'm gonna have beautiful lighting to wrap up this video. And it's been hailing on and off since I picked up my camera. And we're gonna power through. So if you hear hail in the background, I'm so sorry, but I do fear I need to wrap up this video because I have now finished his by Aubrey Dark. You know what's wild about this book? I finished it yesterday and literally immediately every thought about this book has pretty much left my head. The only things that I really remember was that I was rolling my eyes because I didn't care about the couple. I didn't buy into their story. So the spice was just not hitting for me. The second that got introduced, I was like, oh, so tempted to skip. I think what this really comes down to is that lack of development became more and more apparent the further we got into the book because I realized truly these characters didn't really have a lot of substance to them. Like his entire personality is like, who's this arresting creature that makes me so horny? And I love to murder, it keeps the monster at bay. And then she is just like, he hasn't unalived me. I think he might like me? Wait, he's very scary and dangerous. And then Kitty Cat would start piloting the ship. And I'm just like, I just feel like if you're in danger, why is the kitty cat getting involved? How did the kitty cat take over? Oh, the sun's coming out. Yay! Sorry if it just got brighter. Not compelling enough, not enough of digging into those psychological principles, not enough of the development of the build to get to that kind of end state that the author wanted to explore. I think this just kind of promised a lot of darkness and then almost delivered more of a contemporary. I think that maybe if you were earlier in the dark romance journey and you wanted something to just like start to dip your toes into, maybe this would be okay. But I do think that there's better entry points than this book. So it's not one that I'm necessarily going to recommend, even though I think for some people, this might be a better experience overall. But it's me, a crusty broad, who's read a few things in the dark romance genre, one that is just not going to do it for me. And I think if you're a fellow dark romance reader, definitely skip this one. It's not going to give you what you think it's going to give you. And it's funny funny because I actually looked at some reviews after because I'm like, am I just being unnecessarily harsh? Like I knew that the ratings were not that good, but there seemed to be kind of this split. It was like dark romance readers were like, what is this? This is so tame. And then more contemporary readers or people who hadn't read as much dark romance were like, wow, the Stockholm Syndrome was really realistic. And I was like, when? Where? Your mileage may vary a little bit, but again, as I said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as an entry point. Before we wrap things up, do you guys want a little bit more bonus content? Okay, please say yes, because I'm gonna show you anyway. So because it was raining so hard on the way back from my appointment, I had to duck into the bookstore to seek shelter, obviously. So I ended up picking up 2 mass market paperbacks because I don't know what it is lately, but well, I kind of know what it is. I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic for physical media. And when I was growing up, I used to have like my hardbacks were my prized possessions and my like regular paperbacks, we kept those pristine. But mass market paperbacks were the ones that got beat up, that got dragged around, that the spines were all screwed up on, and they would sit on my nightstand and get thrown in my book bag. And I just kind of miss the feeling of physical media like that. And I was like, you know what? I don't really have that many mass market paperbacks. I know they're kind of on the outs. And so I wanted to pick up a couple. Plus, I've just been kind of having this urge to explore older and older media. All this to say, this is a lot of segue. I picked up 2 books. The first one, I really... I don't even know how to explain this one. Well, I kind of do. So I was kind of debating, I don't know if you guys know who Anne McCaffrey is, but I really wanted a book from her, but I kept hemming and hawing over her books. But this one was blurbed by Anne McCaffrey. And I don't know what it is about this couple and this cover, but I was like, immediately, I need this. Look at how sexy these 2 are. Are you joking? And then we got the dragons in the background. So it's Dragon Prince by Melanie Ron, and it's blurbed by Anne McCaffrey. I was like, this is my sign. This is my sign. But yeah, this is, I think, a trilogy. And I was like, I kind of just want to sink into a world kind of like I did with Pathfinders and T.A. White. And I'm hoping, because this is older, I think this was first published in 1989? 1988, close. Ooh, I was so close. That this is going to have completely different tropes I haven't seen in a while, but will have some of that kind of like nostalgic fantasy for me. So that was the first one that I picked up. And then the second one I picked up, this is gonna be a bit of an oddball, but Kathleen Woodwis has come up a couple of times. When Lynn from Lynn's Romance Library was here, we talked about her. And then Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life just read this book, and I was like, that cover is beautiful. And it takes place in the Caribbean. And I was like, I kind of want to read that because I feel like it would be so fun for the summer. And I've kind of wanted a historical that's got a little bit of adventure. And this just feels like it's going to fit the bill. So I got Shanna by Kathleen E. Woodwis. Look at these 2. I just love the colors on this. And then we got the back there. This was just speaking to me. So these are going to be living on my nightstand, and I'm excited to just like kind of read like I did when I was younger, and just like these books are going to be like companions that I have around. In summary, do I think it was worth it to keep these books on my TBR this long? Probably not. I think this was kind of a wake-up call for me that I really need to go back through my TBR again and clean it out even more than I initially did, especially those earlier books that are on that list, because although they might have fit for that time in my life, maybe they would have fit better then, they certainly don't really fit now. I think that's why I only had success with one of those books out of the 3. With all of that, thank you so much for being here. I would love to hear from you if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts are on them. If you have, if you haven't, let me know what the oldest book on your TBR is and whether or not you really think you're actually gonna end up reading it, or if it's something you need to clean off, because that was for a past version of you. If you did find yourself liking this video, please give it a like. That would really help me out. Very sweet of you, a nice little gift. And do not forget to subscribe. I would love to have you back for more videos, and I really, really do hope I see you on my next video. Bye-bye!